it's Wednesday, so it is time for another Business Analysis Live. My name is Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at IIBA.
And I'm Scott Bennett. I'm currently the Manager of Business Analysis here at the International Institute of Business Analysis. We've got a great session for you today. We're going to talk to you about a festival that goes on once a year for business analysis.
Yes, and we want to talk about something else today before we get started. It's not quite as fun as a festival, um, but Scott, today is your last Business Analysis Live. In
It
fact,
is.
this week will be your last week with IIBA. Tell
Yes.
us about
Yeah.
that. You've got something interesting going on.
My wife and I have been building a business, and we have a successful YouTube channel. I've got an award here. I'm becoming a full-time YouTuber. So moving on into that world, and this is the end of my business analysis career. So
Yeah,
event.
you're officially hanging up the business analysis shingle, but I feel like you'll be using a lot of your business analysis skills in your new business. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes, all kinds of those skills apply.
yeah. Entrepreneurship requires a lot of business analysis skills. So even if you're leaving the day-to-day business analysis work behind, you're still going to be doing business analysis. So we will miss you because you have been such an important part of just getting this show started and doing a lot of the backstage production kinds of stuff. In fact, we've got some new producers that are joining us today. So Celine Chow and Rosalind Tan are helping us today and will be helping us in the future. So yeah, it'll be a little different with you gone, but we're super excited for you. I've never known a full-time YouTuber, so this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so you mentioned the Festival of Business Analysis, which I guess we should use the correct title, by the way, the 2024 IIBA Soft Ed Festival of Business Analysis. And I know when people were joining us today, we said it's the three I's of business analysis, and I thought to myself, boy, we could really, as business analysts, we could really use three eyes, like a third eye right here. That would probably be really helpful. What do you think about that? Let's take a look at what those three eyes are.
Yeah, I look at the I's, the innovate, the inspire, the ignite. And this is sort of, I guess, a way to get people excited about business analysis and give them more information to help them be successful in their career. And we have a guest with us today live, but we
Mhm.
also have some recordings from various people around the world that are in a different time zone and couldn't make this. So please welcome to the stage. We've got Jen. Welcome, Jen.
Hi
Hey,
there.
Jen.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Jen,
Yeah.
No
for those
problem.
people that haven't met you yet, I know a lot of people have, why don't you tell them about your background?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Jennifer Battan, also known as Jen. Usually you call me Jennifer if you're mad at me. So Jen's perfectly acceptable. I just get all formal when it asks me to type in my name and title. I had to go with Jennifer, right? I am formerly of the Uncommon League. I have split off and founded, we made some changes within the Uncommon League, but it's still the same Jen, following still in the same path. But I am now working with Spark Collaborative, which is another training and event related kind of an organization for business analysis. We're doing a little bit of agile. We're doing a whole lot of teamwork. We're doing a lot of gamification is kind of, and creative problem solving is kind of the niche where we're at. And so I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little bit more. I have been actively involved in IIBA for almost the entire time that IIBA has been around. I was a founding member of the Minneapolis St. Paul chapter. I spent about 7 years on the local chapter board. I've done a bunch of stuff with the mothership, as we here in Minneapolis lovingly call it, and volunteered in lots and lots of different ways. So I'm really glad to be here with you guys today, and I will be at the Festival of Business Analysis as well. The big long title is the festival.
Yeah.
The festival.
The IIBA Soft Ed Festival of Business Analysis. Absolutely.
I didn't write that down.
Well, that's fantastic, and it's great that we'll have you live today, so we can ask you some more questions. Scott, you mentioned that we have got some folks that will join us by way of some recordings. Do we want to maybe start so that our audience can meet our different guests?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll start with a video of the organizers. So Susan and I recorded something with them one evening, just to give people a flavor of what the conference is about. And then Jen will come back and we'll talk about what you're going to talk about at the conference, so we can get to know a little bit about that.
Fantastic.
So Celine, please play that video. Organizers with us, the 2024 IIBA Soft Ed Festival of Business Analysis. Welcome, Luigi and Briana. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So Luigi, tell us about how this conference is organized and what people can look forward to.
Cool. So yeah, the Australian chapter Festival of Business Analysis, the Soft Ed IIBA Australia Soft Ed Festival of Business Analysis this year is taking place from the 14th to the 18th of October. It's the same format as last year, where we've got now 7 live face-to-face venues. Auckland on the 14th, Wellington on the 15th, Adelaide and Brisbane on the 16th, Perth on the 17th, Sydney on the 17th, and Melbourne finishing off is our marquee event on the 18th this year. Plus, we're going to have our online portal all week during that. There's 30 online presentations as well.
Wow, that's great. So people can participate virtual as well as in person.
Yeah, so you can buy a ticket, and just if you want to buy an online ticket only, we have a portal where you can log in and see the presentations live during the week, and they're sequenced over those 5 days.
Okay, and the people that are online, will they be able to engage with others in the conference?
Yep, it's a super interactive portal. You can interact with them. There's also networking sessions between the presentations as well. So you can network with people who are online, and also you can interact with vendors as well.
Wow, fantastic. You have thought of everything.
We've got all the bases covered.
That's right. You've done it all. Well, Briana, last year there were 3 E's. This year there are 3 I's that are the focus of this. So this year it's Innovate, Inspire, Ignite. Tell us more about that. Why 3 I's?
Well, it has been quite some 12 months the past year. So we thought that Innovate is very, very poignant, not only for businesses, but also for us as human beings and people. So it is about innovating, the way we innovate each and every year with our content. This year we are innovating with an absolutely brand new format, which we are calling BA TEDx, and we are bringing to stage this new opportunity for debating and discussing BA topics in TEDx format. The best part of it is actually open for expressions of interest, and people can join in and throw their hat in the ring. So this is how we would like to inspire our fellow colleagues and our community to go from their good, better to their best selves. And the whole conference is about igniting. It's about igniting your passion for excellence and igniting you to get up and take action for yourself and for your community and your professional development. So that's it, the 3 I's.
My goodness, I could not have, I can't think of a better way to say that. I guess the last question for you, and we'll make sure that this is in our comments, is how can people register? Is there a website that people can go to? Where can they find out more about the speakers, the dates, and all of that stuff?
So you can go to our website, which is the festivalofbusinessanalysis.org, And if you go to the registration page there, you can actually go there and buy those tickets.
Excellent.
Perfect. And
once
tickets
you
are on
bought
sale
those,
now.
they're on sale
Yep.
now. And if you're in the online portal, we'll send you all the registration details and links to the portal in the lead up to the festival.
That's great. Well, thank you both for
Oh,
giving us an
thank you.
overview. We've got a number of speakers here that we're going to talk about that are going to be at the conference. So thank you for your time today, and we'll move on with our next speakers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So that's always great to connect with these guys to see the inspiration for the festival. And this is, I mean, it is a really great conference. So Jenna, you said this will be the first time that you've been there on the ground, as they say, in Australia. So that's really exciting. 6 live sites and a virtual one.
Mhm.
Yeah, going to be a lot of good times.
Yeah, I'll be in 2 of the cities. I'm super excited. I'll be in both Sydney and Melbourne. So,
Oh, great.
and I'm doing a workshop, which is super exciting for me as well. It's one of my favorites. It's one that I really love to do. And I think it kind of falls under a little bit of the innovation and a little bit of that ignite, kind of those 2 eyes for sure. Because gamification is something that not everybody embraces, or maybe they hear it and it's a buzzword and we're like, we're done with it. We don't want to, like, what does that mean for me? And so this is the workshop I'll be doing. If you don't mind me just jumping right in here.
Sure.
Wow, let me tell you about what I'm doing. The workshop is a Ready Player One or more. So this goes a little bit more into it. There's a little titch of, if you don't know what gamification is, let's talk about that. But really, when we get into gamification, it is getting into that collaborative, create a new universe kind of a way that we can approach elicitation as analysts, right? So when we do the collaboration games, collaborative work, stuff like that, usually what we're trying to do is we're trying to create some new way of thinking that gets us into innovation. And the Ready Player One concept is, it's not just about, I'm going to go into an elicitation session and do this one technique. And that's fantastic. If that's what you do, you plan a technique, you know what you want your outcome to be, you kind of have it all planned out. An even better way to approach elicitation, and especially gamification of elicitation, is to key up or queue up multiple games, multiple levels. It helps you to level up. So so you do something and the output of that activity becomes the baseline for the next activity. So imagine leveling up in a video game, right? And so that's what we'll be doing. And this is going to be a super hands-on. We're going to get a couple of little, let's talk about how this works, some ways you can decide how to string those games together and how to approach games in a situation where we are very serious people and we do not want to play games at work. Like, how do we get over that? But let's figure out how to make it work, and the power that comes from this, the amazing results that happen. So that's what we'll be doing in at least 2 locations. I'm not sure. I might be doing something in the online group as well, but I'm not sure if it will be a workshop or another session or exactly how that'll work out yet. We're in talks. There's discussion.
Okay, sounds good. So Jen, you and I got to meet in Toronto a couple of years ago at a conference, and we've met a couple times since. I can attest as an audience participant that Jen's workshops are definitely worth going to. The energy that you bring, the creativity of how you engage people, it's not like sitting and listening to a speaker. You're all in, all engaged. So definitely worth checking out if you have the opportunity to catch Jen.
Thanks so much.
The phrase serious fun comes to mind, Jen, when I hear you talk about this. And hey, so for those of you that are interested in participating, like, you've got to be live in Australia in order to see Jen. The virtual track has a completely separate set of stuff. You might be on the virtual track, but for now you will be.
But it would be limited.
It'll be, yeah. So
I mean, I can't contain myself entirely. Let's be honest. What you see is what you get.
You
Even
might
in a
bubble into the
stage,
virtual.
Even when we're virtual, we're gonna do something. You're gonna do something with me. I am not one of those. oh, I'll sign up for this webinar and I'll just do other work while I half listen to the no, don't plan on that with a webinar from me, a master class. I've got a couple of those coming up soon. Some master class, virtual classes. I'm not one of those people. It's I strive to not be boring.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And hey, just a reminder to our audience, we are live, even though we are going to show some recordings of some of our other guests. You can ask us questions. You can ask us questions about the festival or about any of the speakers. You want to know more about gamification? We got Jen on who can answer that. Well, I tell you what, Scott, maybe let's move to our next recorded guest, who is another speaker that will be, I think, in Australia as well. So Celine, video 2, please. Glenn Brule, who's an executive coach and program leader. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Welcome.
Yeah. So we are talking about your talk at Festival of Business Analysis. But before we ask you about your talk, there is a fascinating thing that we have learned about you, and that is that you were part of the team that actually came up with the Festival of Business Analysis. And I thought that was a really interesting story. Maybe you want to share just a quick story about that.
Sure. I wouldn't say it was the actual language that I was part of the selection. I would say that our very first conference in Australia was preempted with the vision that everything we did had to start with a wow factor and had to stray away from a normalized conference. So I challenged the team to stay away from conference halls, hotels, restaurants, and the like. And much to our delight, we ended up hosting a conference in Luna Park, which I suspect is where the words the festival spun out of as a result of some very good planning and very good practices. So I think we laid some very good grounds and foundation for interesting culture and norms in Australia when we were there.
They are doing a great job making it a really interesting event, and now I understand maybe the inspiration for the use of festival at the beginning of that. So great story. Tell us a little bit about the talk that you're going to be doing at Festival of Business Analysis.
Well, it's still in draft mode, and I'm procrastinating as best I possibly can.
You won't tell.
The tentative title right now is stolen from the organization that I currently work for, but it's lead from where you are. And I firmly believe that anybody in any organization can lead from where they are, particularly business analysts. They have an insight into more things than the average person does as far as an organization's functions and abilities are concerned. So why not allow them to lead from where they are?
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Well, when we were talking earlier about your talk, you had talked something about managing your time.
Yes.
And I love the word you use. You described it as defensive calendaring. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, look, it saddens me. It really does. And I mean this sincerely, to look at many people's calendars. As an executive coach, one of the very first things we focus on is time management. And it saddens me that I see meetings back to back, starting at 7 a.m. and finishing at 7 p.m. Without any rhyme or reason, number one. Number two, without any gaps or spaces in between to get from meeting to meeting, and or have a bio break or have a sandwich or change my mind or get ready for the next meeting. So we're constantly on the move and doing a lot of context switching. So if you were to look at my calendar, I've got 15-minute increments in between, and I don't start my day till 10 o'clock. I actually started at 8, but I have 2-hour chunk in there to look at and think about my strategic planning for the day.
Okay. Wow. It's interesting.
So you've got a couple of more kind of pillars of this idea of leading from where you are. And the next one we talked about was networking and influence. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I think relationships are king. And where I work at Moore Associates, relationships are the coin of the realm, is the euphemism that we use. And the more we can interact with stakeholders and the more that we can get to know them on a professional and a personal level, the more we're able to influence them in a positive manner. And make no mistake about it, this is not influence by way of putting your arm behind your back and hoisting upwards. This is more of an influence to provide information that would allow a proper decision to be made, say about a product or a service that we're looking or considering.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
good distinction there.
Yeah. So what else do you plan on including in your talk, Glenn?
Yeah, the other one I think that's really, really important is coaching. And I think if we thought about coaching as a complementary tool to facilitation, facilitation certainly gets a group working together, but coaching certainly predicated on asking open-ended questions and allowing people, much like an interview would be conducted, but coaching would certainly allow individuals to learn and appreciate their own solution options where product and services development was concerned. So we'll talk a lot about coaching and open-ended questions. I might even get in the presentation, I might even do a scenario where we do a little bit of coaching up at the front of the room just to get some interaction going.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's important for people to leave kind of having seen what it is that you're talking about, because I can imagine there would be many different ideas of what you mean by coaching. So that idea of making it a little interactive would be fun. Now, at this point, you're not quite sure if you're going to be in Australia or virtual. So maybe by the time people see this interview, you will know, and we'll be able to share that with them. So just let us know. I feel like I don't know yet, but I know that we've got one of the organizers who is on the LinkedIn. So Briana, shout out to you. Where can folks find Glenn? He's going to be live at one or multiple locations. Maybe drop that into the LinkedIn chat so we know, so people know where to find him, because I got to tell you that his talk, even though he had only kind of formulated those 3 pillars, was already sounding pretty awesome. That defensive calendaring, I think, is an interesting.
I wrote that down.
Did you? You're like,
I wrote that down.
I'm gonna be practicing that.
Yeah, my calendar gets a little wild. Okay, it gets a lot wild really quickly, let's be honest. And I'm one of those people who preaches about aggressive email management. But what I mean by that, I am not one of those people who can delete all of the emails at the end of every day like that.
Same.
My business partner, Paul Crosby, shout out to Paul, who there's a phrase he uses for it, but at the end of his day, he has 0 emails in his inbox. And I don't understand that, but that's the way he operates. Now, so when I say aggressively managing emails, after going to a conference or after you've been on vacation, delete all, you go back to the office, delete all of the emails. And people just like clutch their, like, what? Here's the deal. They lived without you for however long you were at the conference or on vacation. And if, maybe look at the calendar stuff. If there's something for today or tomorrow, keep that. But you don't need to go through the email to do that. Do that from the calendar, accept or decline. Don't look at what you missed because you missed it. Like, get over it, right? The rest of those emails, just take everything that's unread, move it into the trash. And if that bothers you, put it into another folder and wait for like a day and then delete that folder. Because here's the deal. If somebody sent you a document and they need your feedback, there's a question, they're gonna ask, hey, glad you're back, Susan. Did you read that document I sent you? And Susan can very simply say, no, I'm not sure if I saw that. Could you go ahead and just resend that to me so it's at the top of my inbox? And they will happily resend it to you. You didn't miss a thing. And all of that other stuff is just clutter in your brain. So I'm working on that. That's a tough one because
it's
hard.
it really kind of goes against, I think, what we naturally want to do, which is to make sure that we are honoring these communications. But you're right. And I think,
We were gone.
if Glenn is listening, we might have another idea for you here
I
about
heard
protecting
that.
your
I
inbox.
went to one of those. It was like a podcast sort of a thing, or like a little like mini class before podcasts were a thing, right? It was a here's this online lesson before, like, this was back when the internet was a baby, and that's the whole lot about email management in that particular course. And I get a little. I'm a little bit more careful with how I do subject lines and who I include and how I structure emails and things like that now because of it. But that's the one thing that I'm really struggle with is, you read your regular mail, you throw a lot of it away, you recycle a lot of it, you don't keep the junk. Why is it that we keep junk email? I do. I keep so much junk email that is completely unnecessary. I've read it, or I've glanced and like, oh no, I don't want to do that thing. But then I just move on to the next thing. It could go away. So it's one of those things to get used to.
And that would certainly free up our time to focus on what Glenn was talking about, sort of leadership and that idea of lead from where you are. I think where he was getting to was basically, regardless of where you are in the organization, you have the ability to lead. And I think that's what he's looking to inspire people about, whether you're a new BA or you're intermediate. You don't have to be in a leadership or a management role to lead.
In a designated leadership or management role. Every one of us is a leader. And that was a huge thing that my other business partner, Bob Prentice, many of you knew Bob the BA, or I hope many of you knew Bob the BA. And Bob would talk about you're a leader no matter what. And in the roles that we have, the role of a BA is to be a leader. We're not, and it gets into things about, influencing without authority and stuff like that. And you influence no matter what. And we always, throw in the without authority, because we may be seen in some organizations. I know there are companies out there that look at BAs as, we're trying to get rid of this. Like, BAs aren't scribes. Don't act like that. Where we are leaders, we are experts in our own domain. Own it, use it, and embrace it is really, really important to do.
Yeah. And I see Glenn's ideas about defensive calendaring and your ideas about aggressive email management, right? We need to focus on the things that we shouldn't be doing. And those are two really good ideas for areas where, if you can simplify that, then you can direct more of your time towards leading and the work that business analysis professionals do. Well, okay. So I think we've got one more speaker that we are going to hear from. And so, Celine, if you will pull up video Lauren Ryder with us. And Lauren is going to be speaking in 2 locations at the Festival of Business Analysis. And we'd like to thank you for joining us today. Lauren, tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your talk that you're doing.
Hi, Susan. Hi, Scott. Thanks so much for having me on. My talk is called Leadership in the Age of AI. And what it does is it answers the question, how do I start an AI project? There are so many intricacies. What kind of technology do I use? Who is it going to impact? Are we trying to make some money? Are we trying to save some money? There's so many questions. And so what we're here to do is answer those questions, and particularly with that business analyst lens, because they're often tasked with looking at new projects and how they're going to be approached.
In your role as CEO at Leading Edge Global, is that something that you focus on? Do you focus on those kinds of conversations?
Absolutely. So we specialize in transformation and change. And so what we do is we work with organizations to help them to understand exactly how they need to approach projects, get them on board, and then actually run those projects. We provide project resourcing, but also we have a really strength in change management. And so how do we get people on board adopting straight up the front so that we can have successful projects as we roll them out?
Wow, that's interesting. It's AI sounds like a real challenge in terms of, people concerned about, am I going to lose my job, that type of thing. What are some of the things you talk to companies about?
Yeah, so first of all, I think, the big answer, and some people think it's a bit controversial, you actually will lose your job if you don't get on board. So the idea is AI is everywhere. what you need to do is educate yourself about it. So what are the possibilities? What can be done? And how can it help me to do my job? And so it really is an important part of the future if you don't get on board with it. Now, that said, we don't need to all be AI programmers by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, we speak to companies about knowing about it. Really, the key is understanding what's the right technology for me. But how do we know that? Well, we have to start with our strategy. We have to look up front and figure that out. So that's where we start with the businesses.
Okay.
And so I bet your talk is going to help people through that change of bringing AI in. So what are some of the pillars of your talk?
Yeah, so what we're going to introduce in the talk is 4 different pillars within a framework on how we can actually approach AI within the organization. So the first one is around strategy and planning. The second one is around looking at our data and our technology. We then look at our organization. Are we structured correctly? Do we have the right talent on board? And then finally, we get into adoption and scaling. So how do we actually make it stick and we get our return on investment?
Wow, that's
So you,
interesting. So
yeah.
where does the conversation start when you talk about strategy and planning? Like, where do people start? Because the technology is just so new and people are so focused on technology.
Yeah, look, first where we start is definitions, because everybody's saying the word AI, but are you talking about RPA, robotic process automation? Are you talking about machine learning? Are you talking about generative AI? And so, you get a lot of boards saying to companies, just do it, just get some AI in. And you go, well, let's define this first. And so the strategy piece and the planning is going, what's our problem? What's the problem we're trying to solve? Do we need to cut costs across the organization? Or are we looking to actually make more money and scale? And so that will help to drive how we actually start to plan our project. So that's really key. And the key really is to start with the problem definition. We can't jump into any of our technology until we actually have solved that problem. And our tip there is to put the customer at the front of it.
That sounds like music to my ears. What's the problem to solve? That sounds like an excellent starting place. So then you mentioned the next pillar was the data and technology, which I know sometimes is where AI projects often start, but you say not so fast. So what do you say to the data and technology?
That's right. So we get a lot of people coming to us saying, this vendor has this amazing product, we should use it. Or we say, we already have Microsoft, should we put Copilot across the organization, right? Those sorts of conversations. And we say, well, look, you've got to actually do a lot more analysis and look sort of in your back rooms and figure out what we actually have first. So when we look at even data, so what kind of data do we have in our company? Is it structured? Is it unstructured? Is it accessible, right? Some companies have these big data lakes, some we need to API. There's just so many questions that need to be answered that will help us to drive the decision. And then when we look at, if people are asking the question around Gen AI, which is a huge one right now, they're going, well, can we use ChatGPT for our organization? Should we build our own large language model? All of these questions that come up. And really, at the end of the day, the answer is, where's your data? What are you trying to do? Is it build? Is it buy? How much money do we have to spend? And so there's a lot of aspects that come into it. And we'll break that down on the day.
Right.
Okay.
So there were 2 more that were left. There was organization and talent, and then with adoption and scaling. So if you don't mind, we'll go to adoption and scaling because the change management part. Tell us a little bit about that 4th pillar that you've defined.
Yeah, so adoption and scaling really is, as you say, change management. It's about engaging stakeholders up front to make sure that we actually have them on board and understanding what the vision is and their role within the change. And so that involves, a lot of discussions and deep listening and persuasion, and a huge one is around dealing with resistance, because I think this conversation started with the robots are going to take my jobs. And well, the fact is the robots can help you do your jobs, and there's conversations that can be had around that. So that's around the change. But the other part that sits next to that is the skills that are required. And that's when we talk about things like, critical thinking. For example, when we have AI spitting out lots of really should be useful information, how do we know that it's correct? How do we know that this data is actually going to help us for our business in the future? And so we have to actually understand how to problem solve and how to critical think and have that digital and data literacy. And that's actually, again, part of a BA's role is through these conversations to actually help educate the stakeholders on what they need to know going forward.
Wow. It sounds like that's going to be a very tangible, packed session that you're going to be running there.
Absolutely. They should walk away with some inspiration to actually get going and a little bit of structure as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so we said of the 3 I's, we think this one fits into the ignite because you want to make sure that they are ignited and excited to get into their organizations and to make this happen.
Exactly. We want to get some fire behind them, ready to start their next AI project.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent, Lauren. Thank you for the discussion today. It's great to hear about this and really excited to hear this. So if people are interested in Lauren's talk, look at that on the agenda and you can see if you can attend that session.
Yeah, I'll be in both Sydney and in Melbourne.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks again, Lauren.
Thanks.
What I really liked about what Lauren was talking about there is that reminder of we've got this new technology, this shiny object, and it's easy to get sucked in there. You know, a salesperson goes to a conference and comes back and says, "Oh, I need this software." Oh, well, wait, let's take a step back. That's a good reminder. Yeah. AI is hot, but we need to be doing it for the right reason.
Absolutely. And you know, the other thing that Lauren reminds me actually of all of the speakers that we have talked to today is that this festival draws really excellent speakers. And so you will get a different a different agenda, in each of the venues that will have some speakers that cross multiple, like you, Jen, but you're going to get something good everywhere. So everybody that we've talked to, Scott, has just been awesome. Like, really kind of wishing I was in Australia.
I'm sure they'd let you come.
I'm sure.
You might have to talk to your boss a little bit to get some time.
Well, let's see. In case people are curious, I'll just pop this up because you can get information on the different locations, what's, and who's speaking at each. I think they are still putting some of that together, but festivalofbusinessanalysis.org, and you can go to the registration page if you're interested in participating live or on the virtual stream. I'll just put these dates up again. So it's October, it's mid-October, which I think is a great time of year, for festival season. So there you go.
It sounds like the organizers have really put thought into that online experience for those people that aren't physically there, to make it more engaging. So it's not just, there's some people talking on a screen.
That's right. And even though these aren't those 3 I's that we started off with, innovate, inspire, ignite, it isn't as if those are specific tracks. They are really, I think, the feelings that they want you to have. Briana said it so well, but this is really what has inspired them to select the speakers and create a great experience for everybody. So those are the 3 I's. Now I'm going to do a quick check. I don't think we've had any questions or mini questions today. Let's see. Although, we did have some people, Scott, who wanted to wish you the very best. So Brianne says, thanks so much for your contributions. You'll be missed. I know we had somebody also ask where they can find you. And so
yes. So the YouTube channel that I have is called Fixing Furniture. I've been a woodworker most of my life, and it's a channel specifically for people to learn how to repair furniture, whether it's 5 years old or 150 years old. So that's the focus of where Lauren and I have put our business.
Yeah. So that is what's next. Well, let's see. So let's kind of wrap things up. Any final thoughts, Jen?
You know,
on
I was thinking about those 3 I's, and I was thinking about, when a conference producer, be it an IIBA chapter or some of these professional organizations, start to think about a theme, that theme becomes meaningful for them. And it is meaningful because that's what they want to deliver, right? And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be about there's a track simply on innovate or inspire or ignite. But when you look at that cross section, it is, what do we want people to take away from this event? And so the festival is multiple days, it's multiple locations. If you are going to attend, if you're thinking about attending, if you're thinking, gosh, I really wish I could get to Australia, but I just can't, go online, go to the online event. And it's the kind of thing that when you go to sessions that inspire you, that get you excited, that you think this could be really cool. But I love to tell people, no matter what conference you go to, no matter what event it is, always pick your favorite, pick a backup just in case there's no room in the room or anything like that. But look at every single thing, and don't, if you'll pardon the phrase, don't poo-poo a session just because you feel like that's beneath me or I'm done with that. I already know that. There are new things happening every single day. You guys, I talk about elicitation. We do elicitation almost every single day. I'm going to bet most of us are going to hang up from this call. You're going to leave from this little session, or if you're watching a replay tomorrow, you're going to go do elicitation. There are different ways to get people engaged in elicitation. It's changing all the time. Our way of working has changed every time. And if all we ever do is interviews are great. They're fantastic. It's not the only way. So there's always some new twist. And even if it's not a new twist, there's going to be something that maybe you forgot. It's like, wow, I remember that I used to do that and I stopped doing it because I got tired of it, or I forgot and realized I didn't need to do it, or whatever it might be. Don't just go to stuff that it's like, oh, this is new and exciting. Is AI new and exciting? Absolutely. Is it the new shiny object? Absolutely. Is a computer and AI going to replace us? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think we need to understand the tools and what they can do, how they can help us do our jobs better. So those are the kinds of things, like get inspired, get excited, and, embrace some of those themes and figure out what you can do to bring. Anytime you go to any conference, I always tell people in my sessions, think of one thing you're going to do when you get back to work. One thing. Implement it, do it. Don't get sucked into your email. Instead, do the thing that you said you were going to do. I've sat on planes, leaving a conference, excited and going through notes, which I never do on airplanes, but getting so excited about doing something. And then I come back to the office and I get crushed by all of the things I missed, all the things I have to do, and I have to catch up on, and all of that stuff. Don't let that happen to you. Implement what you've learned. That's the best thing you can do, is create those takeaways and take something back to work. Learn from what you just learned, like make it happen.
Absolutely.
The way I always look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder, because we are professional learners. Oh, there we are. We're professional learners. And so take every opportunity to learn. When you flex that muscle, you can do that in your everyday work life as well. Well, thank you, Jen, for joining us today.
Thanks, Jen.
And even though we don't have our recorded speakers, if they are listening to this after the fact, we sure thank you for all of your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Scott, I want to thank you for all of your time. You have really helped to make this broadcast something really special. So we will certainly miss your influence and great questions and all of the good stuff that you bring.
Well, I also want to thank you, Susan. We started this together, and it was a struggle to figure out how to do this together as a pair, as co-hosts. And I thought we've got into a really great rhythm. People are enjoying it. So I'll leave it with you to continue to carry this on. I know there are great and wonderful things ahead for this podcast. So Good luck with everything.
We will have, let's talk about next time, actually. So it'll be me and a guest. and maybe a guest co-host. We're kind of working through some things at the moment. But the next time that you see us, which will be in 2 weeks from today, we will be talking about the power of observation. It's one of those things that maybe we don't think about it, but this really is a power that we have. And so our guest will be talking about that. So we will see you in 2 weeks from today. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.